to start the methodology?
Sure, thank you. That's my bit, methodology. We do lots of studies on market demand, and this procedure we tend to use. Am I on?
Nope.
Oh, okay. Okay, are we on now? Thank you. Okay, I want to just briefly review the methodology so you'll know how much we work very hard to get the best respondents to tell us what's happening in online learning. So we administered, as we have for the last number of years, to 1,500 respondents completed this instrument from all over the country. We have what we call our panel, a national panel of individuals from which our interview agency selects those who would be appropriate for the discussion, and then they have to clear certain criteria, because we won't just speak to anyone. Number one, we only spoke to people 18 years of age or older. They had to have a high school diploma or the equivalent, and most important, because we study demand and not need, they had to have been enrolled within the last 3 years, or currently enrolled, or have firm plans to enroll in a fully online degree program, certificate, or licensure program. So these aren't people who are walking down the street who are saying, oh, someday I'd love to go back and study online, and this is what I want to do, art history, and so on and so forth. No, we talk to the real buyers. It's just like you were building homes in Louisville and you wanted to talk about size, shape, and so forth. You're not going to talk to apartment dwellers. You're not going to talk to people who say, I'm going to buy a home someday and I'd like 8 bedrooms. We talk to the real buyer who is all over the nation, and they represent what we believe is the national profile of online students. And
Just a couple of quick things just up front. Karen and I are more than willing to take questions throughout these slides. So if there's a particular slide you have a question about it, just raise your hand and we can address that. But we'll also try to have some time at the end as well. So as Karen was saying, 7th year of conducting this, we try to look at some of the demographics over time and point out some of the differences, but also some of the similarities. So why we're here today is mainly around online enrollments as traditional enrollments continue to see declines. Online enrollments and the share of online students in higher ed has continued to climb even as traditional enrollments have started to stagnate. From EduVentures, I know Todd talked about this the other day, the projection that online is growing rather robustly over time. I don't think here's my red dot. But projecting it to perhaps even plateau at some point around that 2020, 2021 timeframe after we see a little bit more growth out of the market. Again, not getting into the business predicting recessions, but knowing that higher education is countercyclical. If there is another recession, if we're on the doorsteps of another recession, that could help us see a spike in overall higher education enrollments, online enrollments, but then without continued innovation in the marketplace, without differentiation between providers. The folks at EduVentures were predicting a period of plateau, as even though there would be some students entering the market, there wouldn't necessarily be that surge in terms of seeing that demand in terms of why they should be continuing to get these programs.
yes, we're going to go back and forth on these. I want to point out 2 things, though.
On this one?
Yeah, on the back, on the enrollment. Remember, if you look at your grandchildren, you look at your children, you see what they're doing online, what do you think is going to happen as they enter collegiate life or post-collegiate life? They're going to be very attuned to e-learning. And I think that the predictions are always a little bit underestimated because of what we're seeing, Andrew and I are seeing lots of younger people coming into online education. The pattern of growth for the younger population is going steadily forward. So what does that mean? Look at the younger generation, it'll be even more so. So I think the picture is quite bright for online learning.
So looking at some of the demographics, gender, predominantly female at both the undergraduate and graduate level. Overall higher education is a little somewhat more evenly split, so we definitely see a skew towards females with online learning. Some of those key online programs, if we think about it, education and nursing, are typically some of the fields or vocations that do have a higher percentage of females working within them, and as those are some of the largest online fields, as we will see, perhaps that is one of the reasons pulling and have a higher representation of females learning online. Employment status, these are people that are in the workforce. They are seeking out online learning for some specific reasons. One of them being that flexibility and convenience, as we always see, is the tried and true value proposition for online is being able to study on your own time, on your own terms. So if you are an individual that is trying to continue in the workplace, not necessarily take time off to go back into higher education, online learning providing you that flexibility as well. So these are some of our transition slides, and the way we did this presentation is in the actual report, which is available for download on both of our websites. It's a rather robust 60-odd page report. So not everything in the report will be represented here, but these are our key findings from the report, and so we wanted to touch on each of these key findings this morning and just provide a little bit of snapshot of the data that went into it. So one of our first key findings was the importance of mobile-friendly content. We know from the survey that I believe it was 99.9% of the 1,500 respondents said they had a mobile device, which I don't think is a big shock to I think anyone in the room. And again, this mobile device is defined as a smartphone or a tablet and not a laptop necessarily. So if you think of someone saying mobile device, well, my laptop's mobile, we ask them to put that aside and just think about their tablet and their smartphone when we ask them these questions. So 99.9% of them had these devices, and as we see going through the college search process, the vast majority, over 87% there, used it at least some of the time to perform their search for their online degree program. You see around 11%, over 10% there did all of their searching for their online degree program on their mobile device. So that to us signals the importance of making sure that your university web pages that you're driving your marketing traffic to are mobile friendly. You have that the content is being displayed right, that they're able to find the answers to their questions, not just on your regular website, but on your mobile platforms as well. Being able to access that information, get their questions answered. Because if they're going, 10% here are only doing their search on a mobile device, and if they're not able to find that information from you, they'll just move on to the next provider, the next, link down the page, the next search result, and try to find that would they be looking to use their mobile device in the actual online learning classroom. And as you see, 18% say, they don't want to complete any of their courses there. But you see that means 80% are looking to use their mobile device, either their smartphone or the tablet, to actually access their online course content. They'd be able to complete assignments, being able to interact with others. So the importance not only of having your website, your marketing channels optimized for mobile, but also the online classroom.
It might be interesting to ask the audience how many of their schools enable the curriculum to be accessed by mobile. So there's lots of room for growth, obviously. And this is the preference of the learner.
Yeah, this is the prospective students. And then interestingly, if you see this, 18%, 12% said they would actually like to complete all of their online degree through a mobile device. We went then and asked the current students and also those recent alumni, as Carol was talking about, 20% actually said they actually did complete all of their activities through a mobile device. Now, again, trying to define that as a phone or a tablet, hopefully these respondents are keeping that in mind, but we think that only 10% were looking from the prospective side to complete all their coursework on a mobile device. And then the reality is that 20% actually were going on and completing all of their course content through a mobile device, actually completing their entire degree on their phone. If you think about just that dedication and to actually do that is actually a little interesting to us as well. But then on the flip side, you have 20% saying they don't want to do any of their their coursework on the mobile device. So here you see the as we always say, the online learner is not a homogeneous group. Just as many that are looking to complete their entire degree on a mobile device, you have the flip side, almost an equal number looking that want to complete any of their degree on a mobile device, but there's still underlying the importance of making sure that your LMS is mobile friendly, making sure that you're able to access those lectures, access those readings, upload their assignments all through mobile friendly. So we asked, what are some of those course activities that you would want to complete? So obviously reading, 51%, communications with professors. So you can see some of these are, some of maybe the more basic tasks that they would be looking to, but you're also seeing mobile-friendly LMS. If you think about your LMS, is it actually being able to access through that? That obviously can be a little bit more of a challenge. Complete also going on to continue that list. Lectures and completing assignments. So not just doing their readings, which you can understand, reading on a tablet, reading on a smartphone, but then actually being able to interact and upload assignments through the mobile devices is also important. So last year, we asked the question in the survey, just a very broad question about career services. If online learners, again, if you think of them as adult learners, you think of them as people that are working, are you interested in career services? Do you use career services at your institution that you're pursuing your degree at? To our surprise, I believe it was 75% or so said that they were interested or did use career services. So we wanted to follow up on that in this 2018 version of the study and actually find out, well, what are the career services that you're interested in or that you actually use? And this question actually spills on to, I think, 3 slides at least, so I just wanted to go quickly and show you some of these top line ones. So the bluish green bar on top, you see that these 3, working with a counselor, reading self-assessments, and resume creation, you have over 50% or close to 50% of online college students saying they actually utilize this career services during pursuing their online degree. I think, again, to us, that was a rather large segment of the population saying, because if you think, again, a working adult, they already should, understand the workforce, understand to go through the interview process, understand how to put together a resume. But actually, over half of them were actually going back and fine-tuning some of these skills. And then if you look at the gold bar on the bottom, you see that's 7, 8, so close to 10% are saying that it wasn't offered, but they'd be interested. So if you add that to 50%, so you have over 50, 60% of online college students would actually utilize or have interest in many of these career services.
Yeah, we're seeing the same pattern in the regional studies we conduct on the interest of online students. And for years we thought they don't need career services, they got a job, they go on and advance, they want to advance, but they don't need to know where to go. But in a very highly competitive market, don't forget everybody getting into online learning, you need some advantages to draw them to your institution, not somewhere else. So here's one big piece of advice. They are interested in career help.
And again, the importance, obviously, as we're talking about online education, making sure as many of these services are available in an online platform, obviously. So working with career advisor, you can obviously see, Skype chats, being able to virtually meet with advisors to complete some of this work, but obviously the self-assessments obviously can be done through an online platform as well. Resume creation, being able to, perhaps use a Dropbox system of going back and forth, Google document, with edits to help them with this, with their resumes. So making sure that these services are accessible for an online learner, not just your campus-based students. So as I said, this question spills on to a couple of slides here. So this is the next 3. You have job search assistants, search websites, and a mentor. So here you have over a third, 36 to 40% actually use this. And again, another 10 to 12% interested in it if they had access to it. So you add those together, we're up again close to 50% of interest and utilization for some of these career services that many of you offer your campus students, but also, again, bringing it online and have access equally for your online learners as well. Making sure they're aware of it and they can access it. You should see some, level of utilization. And then, I don't know if this is our final set, but again, same trend, over a third use it and close to 10% interest in job fairs, internships, and interview workshops. Here's our last one. So job shadowing, alumni network, maybe those are a little harder to do, obviously, but being able to make them aware of, some of these services, being able for them to sign up virtually for them, and again, strong use with 10% would be interested in using them, and close to a third actually have utilized them. And then we'll turn it over to Carol.
Okay, thank you, Magda. Any questions, comments today? Okay.
I got a question.
Oh, good.
I was interested in your mobile e-learning statistics. I imagine it's grown in the last few years.
Interest in mobile, I think definitely has grown as we've asked the questions in the study. We've obviously added more questions in that area over the last couple of years, but definitely I think it was a year or two ago we started to really put that in some of our list of interest, and definitely that has gone up in both the search aspect, when in the search process they use a mobile device. I think the year we asked that question, it was a little bit more early on in the process going mobile, and then eventually transitioning when they were looking to complete an application to a laptop or a PC. But again, our just general advice is making sure that all that content is available in a mobile format, just for that probably growing percentage that are completing their entire search process through a mobile device.
Absolutely. Was there another hand? Okay. I'm going to take on the topic of our third major key area of findings, is online learning as a return on investment. And this is good for some of your faculty and deans that still question the viability and interest in online learning. We asked a question about how would you compare the instruction of your college-level online learning experiences with your college-level classroom experiences, and you'll see here that better and about the same comes out to about 85%. So there you are. I remember the days when you couldn't walk into a faculty senate room or any type of administrator's cabinet meeting and talk about online learning. And now we have the proof. The students want it, they'll vote with their feet, and you've got to respond, or all those competitors that are coming down the road will capture them before you. The other question was, how would you assess the balance between the cost of your online education with the lifetime value of that degree or certificate? And a third said that the value exceeds the cost. Another 54% said the value equals the cost. So there you've got a good 80, 90 so percent. These, remember the methodology, these are actual buyers. They've participated, they've had the experience, and they can vote with their feet. Good data to share with your challenge of getting buy-in back on campus. I know how difficult that is. Students want to study close to home. I think this is one of the major findings of the study, because I deal with colleges all over the country. We say, we're just here, and we're competing with those big institutions in the Northeast or in that other region, or how about those for-profits that are going national? But look at these data. How far do you live from the closest campus service center of the college university in which you were enrolled? They're not making this up. They were enrolled. And 44% stay within 25 miles. Good news for many of you in this room where you have a regional audience to attract. You add another 22% that would be within 50 miles, and you get 66%. 2 out of 3 adult learners learn with an institution within 50 miles, and then it goes on. Now, what about that 9, 4, 12? How can you reach out to a larger distance, do you think? What programs would you market at a larger distance? Would it be the MBA? Probably not. Specialized programs, unique topics, boutique topics. I know we had one at the University of Vermont that talked about culinary skills master's degree or certificate program, or gerontology master's degree from a place near Chicago. Those are the things that you can go farther with to promote because they're less available. Who has a topic like that where they go nationwide? or regionally? Online. Yes, over there.
We have online mental health counseling, Christian focus, not national.
Right. And what proportion of your students are not within 50 miles?
Majority of them all did.
Even with that specificity.
Yeah, we're close right now. We reach states and south.
And because you don't have many competitors nationwide, you have to see where your competitors are. Any other boutique program, niche program? Yes.
We have a small program that's wider reach. It's research administration.
Research administration. How far do you get?
We get down, we're in New England, we get down to the south and out west.
Yeah. And how many do you have to deal with faculty that say, how about my topic? And you say, oh my God. Oh, how about that topic? And you say, well, I can't market that. Some of these could be marketed on a national basis versus a regional basis, which is far more competitive. I think it was University of Louisiana Lafayette where we did one and a PhD in family counseling and whatever. And they went nationwide. Okay. But consider farther options for the right program. I've preceded the point. Why do you choose a school more than 100 miles away from you? The program I wanted was not offered here, right? The school has a strong reputation. So you may have a medium interested topic, but if you can't compete with that institution 150, 200 miles away in reputation, you could lose out. So what do you do instead? You're going to find other factors that keep them at home and not reach farther away, which is cost, time, service, probably. Now we go on to diverse online fields of study. That was another key area. And thank God, it's not just the MBA and nursing degrees like I remember 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. There's nothing else. But now, let's look at the undergraduate column. Business is 2018 is the dark, and 2017, 2014, I can't see that. So you see that? 2014 is the gray, and 2018 is the dark blue. So we've gone down in business. Interesting. Have you seen that at your campus? Nationally. Right. It was business, business, business all the way. So now we're going to have a little bit more balance. Health and medicine has gone up, naturally. Who was I sitting with at lunch who said the health fields are just so big? We're in Southern California, Texas, and Florida. Growing communities. And then computers and IT, just about the same, 14, 13%. I'll look at the grad side. Business from 28 to 21. How many have finding a little bit more difficulty in marketing that MBA these days? Not only the competition, but a lot of the people we talk to in our survey say, we just don't want the MBA. We need to have something with a definitive title, a specificity. So when I'm sitting across from the employer's office, he knows what I'm able to do, okay? And then health and medicine is up. Why? We are an aging society, correct? Health and medicine up, and computers and IT up. So, you know, in 4 years, we're seeing some change. This is not a dormant market. Any questions? It's not just the MBA nursing, as I said. And then we go down, let's look at the undergraduate column going down. Social sciences, 11, arts and humanities, 10, education, 10, and teaching, 9. We're getting a pretty good distribution these days, don't you think? So it's just not business and medical. You've got to have a variety of programs. And on the grad side, education and teaching, of course, is a big drop. You see that everywhere. And every state we go to, it has something to do with the state legislation, not requiring the education and training community to move on. Any questions about the subject area? And so forth. Okay, so on the grad side, science, technology, engineering, higher. Counseling remains the same. A good guide. Remember one thing. This is the nation. It's not Mississippi. It's not North Dakota. But it's a gauge. It's a gauge, and the pattern here is you need more course topics and areas. Before we could live on business and maybe health sciences. Now we need more variety to capture this marketplace. So, just to summarize that, the graduate field of study, look what's gone down. Business, nursing, elementary ed, and curriculum and instruction a bit down. And what's rising? Computer science, social work, information technology, of course, and nurse practitioner. A bit of a guide for you in all the locations in which you reside, but you need to find out for yourself what's happening locally as well. But this is a guide to show you patterns. I think our data is best in giving you national patterns, which you then have to go and apply at home and say, at least it's something to work with. We see what's happening nationwide, what's happening here in Des Moines. And now we go to innovative pedagogy and programs. Andrew?
Can I ask a question about the last data?
Yes.
Even though you're talking about mean drop in numbers going into business and nursing education, I mean, for example, a couple years ago in nursing, 29,000 undergraduates couldn't get into programs because there aren't enough faculty. So what are the aggregate numbers? You still have a lot of institutions being driven by aggregate business students, aggregate nursing students. So how do you reconcile those differences?
In terms of demand and supply?
Well, just in terms of numbers, in terms of actual aggregate numbers.
They're going down, but they're still hard numbers.
Right, they still make up.
Well, that was the earlier chart that showed their overall proportion, right?
Right.
Right. What we're trying to say here is that it's not just business and nursing. Okay, that's the big message here. We're not saying don't think about them hard, but there are other things to make the faculty happy, by the way. Some people feel left out.
Right.
So what we tried to show here is distribution. You still can't stop offering the MBA or the RN to BSN and so forth.
So you're saying that in 10 years, don't be putting all your eggs into one basket because it's not going to pan out.
Yeah, look what happened in like the last, 8 or 10 years,
Sure.
right?
Thank you.
Thanks.
So I think one of the big findings, again, this is the 7th year we've been doing this report, that we found over time was the price sensitivity of the online student. As we were talking about yesterday, obviously the rise in tuition, there's discounting, trying to attract students by, making sure that your degrees are affordable, having affordable learning solutions. And for the online student, we've been finding definitely welcoming some of these new innovations as we try to roll them out through higher education. So, their knowledge around competency-based programs we've been finding has been increasing over the last 3, 4, 5 years. We've been looking at it within the survey. And then you actually see here, almost all students would be interested or would consider a competency-based program if it was made available to them. So we had a definition within the survey that tried to talk through exactly what a competency-based program would entail. And I think from the student's perspective, they see it as, there's not much to lose in such a type of program for them because they're being able to progress through that program quicker. They're able to get credits and move through courses that they already have knowledge of. So obviously that model and helping them save their time and save their money and help them get into the job market or back into the job market that much quicker is a welcomed innovation for them as more of these programs can be rolled out. Then we just asked around, we called it textbook free courses. So you think of open educational resources, OER, being able to integrate those into courses to help save students, money in terms of what they would spend on these textbooks that they use for their courses, then try to sell back or they hold on to them. So obviously they're interested. Their familiarity with these types of courses is starting to grow. You see 30% very familiar, 35% somewhat familiar, so almost 2/3 are familiar with this type of innovation and are obviously open. We had follow-up questions about, again, similar to their interest in enrolling in that type of course, and obviously strong interest in enrolling in a course where they wouldn't have to pay for textbooks and add that cost into that. Then we asked a question around prior learning assessments, PLAs, and this is one that I thought was a little interesting for us. When you see the results, yes, no, and unsure, it came out a third. So I think we were talking about yesterday, the idea of having prior learning assessment, having really strong prior learning assessments, but then also making sure that individuals are aware that you have prior learning assessments out there. So obviously you have a third saying they were unsure, so you take those as being that they're either unfamiliar with the topic or just weren't didn't ask the question, or the university didn't come out with asking the questions that say, oh, you're a police officer enrolling in a criminal justice course, and you went through the police academy, we can probably package some credit towards your degree with that. So having prior learning assessments and making sure that students and your staff are aware of them and when to introduce them into the process, because again, the price sensitivity of these students being able to accept their credit and award them credit for some of their life experiences is really key for one, helping them save money, addressing that student debt issue, but also it really goes a long way in terms of enrolling and converting these students into youth programs. The online classroom, as I believe we were again talking about yesterday or this morning, students, even though they're online, they want to be engaged. They're not necessarily wanting to sit and complete all their studies in a vacuum. They want to be able to interact with their classmates. So making sure that when we're building these online courses, there are components and modules that will allow them to interact with their professor, being able to interact with their classmates. Prior years of getting the survey, we know that requiring set meeting times can be met with some resistance from some students. Having a set every Wednesday at 8 o'clock, we're going to all get online at the same time. Maybe that isn't necessarily the best route at trying to tackle this, but it is obviously one way of going about it. But just making sure that the classes are engaging, that they do allow students to interact with each other, because a very large percent here is saying it was very important to their success within their online program. So this slide is going to be hard to read. So again, I would point you towards the report so you can really kind of look at it and bring it all in. But basically, what we were looking at were the class activities, again, that the students would point to be very helpful for them in terms of their online learning. And what we tried to summarize with the title here is independent but still engaging. So again, talking about those engaging activities with their faculty or with their classmates, those kind of fall still with significant numbers on this more right side, synchronous sessions on the right side of the graph. You see 33% very useful, 37% somewhat useful, so still a very large, significant percent of students point to those engaging activities as being very important. But again, these are online learners, so they still put, you see 58, 52, 51% in activities that are a little bit more independent or asynchronous. So you have the textbooks, you have assignments, you have videos and PowerPoints from the professor, items that they can consume on their own time and learn on their own time and learn in their own way. So again, those components are very important for the online learner, important for their success, but don't necessarily adopt all those independent learning strategies at the sake of some interactive sessions, because those are still what we're looking for as well. Carol, would you like to talk about marketing?
Sometimes.
Your favorite topic.
I know. Not all memorable ads were seen online. The great question we asked is, which of the following do you remember seeing advertisements or information on online programs at the time you started your search? And the highest ranking item is listings on search engines. Of course, if you're not optimized on these search engines, you're losing a pile of prospective students. Second were commercials on TV. And of course, I mean, if you've been anywhere in the nation, you turn on the television at night, what are you seeing? Now, it's not necessarily going to jump to Liberty or Phoenix or Capella or Southern New Hampshire, but they can remember those ads and remember the earlier findings. Within 100 miles and near your territory if you act accordingly. So it's not surprising that TV is memorable. Email, ads on websites you visit, and ads on Facebook. I'm meeting with the Director of Education at Facebook next week. And we're going to run a seminar with her to get her insights on how Facebook can be maximized to draw enrollments to your institution. So we'll make sure you hear about that. And which of the following do you remember seeing advertisements or information on online programs at the time you started your search for an online program? Going down the scale here, less and less college fairs. These people are not at college, right? They're coming from work, they're coming from home, so that makes sense. Ads on college search sites, that's funny. I thought that was, I guess it has to do with proximity. If you live within 100 miles of the institution you're ultimately going to enroll in, most of you, you don't need to go to a search site. You see the billboards. How many people use billboards? You see the advertisements in papers and local areas. And where do you spend your marketing dollars, everybody? If most of your students are going to come from nearer than farther, it's a no-brainer, and so forth. And down the scale to podcasts on last, ads on apps that I use, et cetera, et cetera. Online program pricing, okay. Which of the following statements about tuition is the closest to how you made your enrollment decision? 72%, okay, 3 out of 4. Tuition for my preferred program is the lowest among the programs I evaluated. I'm sorry, stop. 28% tuition was the lowest. Oh, nice news, right? How many are in private institutions here? Right. So the lowest tuition isn't always the seller. Most important, 72% say is higher, but the convenience and format was overriding. I'm starting to away. Or the tuition for my program was higher, but the content was what I wanted. This should be, all these points should be signaling to you what messages you want to convey in your marketing pieces, right? You want to ring the bell that the content in this program is exactly what you need to succeed, to get a higher wage, to move up the scale, and so forth. Or 23% that says the school and the program I will choose has the best reputation. How can you prove reputation? Have past students who become major employers or figures in your community say something about you. All these are hints on getting better and more targeted messages out to people who are ready to make a decision. What is the per credit tuition cost in your most recent program, undergraduates? About, it seems like the middle range is about $300 to $400. You can look at this later in more detail. And for graduate students, 50% were over $800. So what you should do now, it's hard to change your tuition. I mean, it's easy to raise it, but you can't lower it, right? I have never, now I have to say one institution, met an institution that will lower their tuition. But we've got to give them back something else. Convenience, time, career services. Think of all the things we discussed earlier. If you can't change your tuition, you got to give them back something that makes the price worthwhile. Oh, this is a phenomenal piece. We were talking about it last night. Even $500 makes a big difference. Why? I go home and I tell my wife, my husband, my children, I have a scholarship at that institution. They love it. So any kind of incentive you can give them, at least $500 will make a big difference. Very important slide. And students choose online learning? Oh my goodness. Okay. If the program you wanted was not available in an online format, how likely you enroll in a classroom? Not very likely. So you're not stealing students away. Okay? Try to make that clear to your faculty, your administrators. This is a population that you don't serve will go someplace else. You can't convert them to classroom when they need online. Or blended even, although blended is closer.
And also, in the top part, that 24%, the 9 and the 15, this is the new audience that you're reaching, that you're bringing into your campus that otherwise would not be able to. So it's not only stealing, you're not stealing students from your classroom, you're also bringing in students that otherwise wouldn't even have the option to go back and attend.
Good point. Excellent. Which of the following features of some online programs are most important in your selection? Available scholarship, grants, or such and such. It's always tuition, so lots of it has to do with money. It makes a little bit of a difference, but scholarships help a lot for a private institution. Courses offered year-round. I recommend that comes out in every one of our local market studies. 7 to 8 week courses over a 12-month calendar. You can't beat it. There, you know, they say summer, I have nothing, I want to get this over with. January, May, I have the time. So it's 12 months, year-round, 7 to 8 week courses, and what's the learning house?
8 weeks, 6 start.
Okay, 6 steps. Okay. So very, very important. Which of the following features of online programs most important in your selection? And really, some of these, they're sort of like a little bit flat, and there's nothing that really stands out. They could enroll in classroom courses, frequent start dates, etc. Which of the following are most important in your selection of the program going down the scale? So our key findings: mobile-friendly content. Here's a summary. Online student career services. Online learning return on investment. You gotta say, you gotta put in words or in pictorials or in fact sheets what they're going to get back. What they want is a raise, a new job, advancement, or maybe a change in career. Most three first. Diverse online fields of study. It's not just the MBA and nursing any longer. Innovative pedagogy, like the competency-based programs.
We are just being able to address some of those price concerns that we were talking about.
The online classroom, we spoke about that. Multi-channel marketing, very important. You can't stick with the same old things you've been doing. Everything's evolving over time. And the pricing. If you're a private institution, you have a high price, what are you going to give back? Time, convenience, career services, alumni network, et cetera, et cetera. You've got to think of what's the return on this investment. And you don't force them into online learning, they choose it. They're ready, willing, and able. And if you follow the things we've been saying, you have an opportunity that resonates with them because you're hitting the nerves of what brings them back. Questions? We have a couple minutes of questions? So we got it all solved?
I wanted to tease out a little bit of the competency-based program versus the prior learning assessments. It seems like there'd be some overlap.
So the prior learning assessment, it's a tool that you would use during the admission process in order to award credit for experiential learning. Where a competency-based program would be a complete change in the way the program is taught and structured. So, they're addressing a similar need in that they're getting the student through the program quicker, awarding them credit for things they already know. But there's two different tools to kind of get at that. Obviously you wouldn't use them in tandem. You would use one or the other. But I think they are, like you said, addressing a similar need and performing a similar outcome for the student, and being able that they would have to pay for fewer credits through the program. Now, from the institutional perspective of the prior learning assessment, those are credits that you're not obviously accruing tuition fees from. Where a competency-based program, you would have a pricing structure that you would be charging that student throughout the program. If you think of Western Governors model, is it every 6 months? They pay for so much access to that program. So again, there's kind of for the institution kind of pros and cons to both sides of it. But competency-based program would be a real lift for your faculty, because you're basically recreating or rebuilding an entire program. Where prior learning assessment, you can take your program you already have, you've been teaching for a number of years, and you're just packaging some courses for that these students would already have knowledge of.
And when we do our regional surveys, we ask a question, and we have to define what prior learning assessment is in terms of, are you interested? Would this be an attractive feature? Way off the charts. Why? It reduces cost, it reduces time. But you can't call it PLA, you've got to describe it as it is. A very important attribute.
Sure.
When you saw a business school, business party number shrinking, is it that they're shrinking, or is it the relationship between that and the total number of programs out there is changing, so they're becoming relatively less frequent?
Good question.
I would say, yeah, it's proliferation of programs, just, it's not that there are, they're just losing share by the influx of new students, and those students aren't necessarily all being driven to business. So I don't think they're necessarily, I think there is obviously some loss of, some students, but I think that change is more the influx of students, influx of providers, influx of programs, watering down the share of that business and nursing and
Yes,
those
I
other
agree.
fields have.
One point we did bring up on the slide, Andrew, was the number of transfer credits they bring in. At the undergraduate level, on average, 30 to 35 transfer credits. And boy, do they want credit for those transfer credits, right? Because that, again, is cost and time. So it's on average 30. And they've been to school before. Only 14% come in with no credit.
Yeah, these are experienced learners that have been through the higher education process. Many of them also have experience with our online learning. Again, think about, as Carol was talking about, the younger demographic, states now requiring high school students to take online courses. So these are experienced learners, experienced online learners as well.
And another thing you'll learn in the report is how fast they want you to respond. Oh my God. I mean, look at that. I mean, they narrow it down to 2 or so, and if you're not there, bang, they're gone to the next place. We're talking about 24 hours. We're talking about minutes. We're talking about unbelievable time. You got to be ready, willing, and able. And also, we found in another study that requested transcripts is a huge hurdle. So a friend of mine at Liberty said, Carol, that's no problem. There's a company out there for $3 a head will get you the transcripts. Why are you asking them to go back and get their transcripts?
And that's something the learning house does as well.
Right.
We take on that fee for the student and get their transcripts, because again, we did find that being a hiccup in that funnel. So anything we can do to remove those hurdles, anything that you can do to remove some of those hurdles, I think you're talking about. The speaker yesterday was talking about 20 or 30 different things a student had to do in order to enroll in the institution. So anything we can do to simplify that process, obviously, we're always looking for innovative ways to do that, and the transcript collection service that we do is one way.
The final note I want to make is the competition is intense, right? And it's getting more, as you can see, because demand is increasing, competition is increasing. So we hope we give you some edges here on confronting those nearby institutions who you're really competing with ideas and messaging and program formats and so on and so forth that will bring you the students.
Any final questions?
All right.
Thank you.
We'll call it a wrap. We got a couple of gifts here.